What happens when an economy runs out of people? This unimaginable situation occurs when a country loses more people to death than it gains through birth or immigration. By 2070, projections show Japan's population will drop to 87 million, about as many people as it had back in 1953. What's fueling this demographic freefall for the world's fourth largest economy? And is there still time to reverse course? In this video, we'll explore what it actually means for a country and its economy to lose people at this scale. The scale of Japan's population decline is hard to overstate. As of October 2024, the country's population stood at 123.8 million. In 2024, Japan faced its steepest population decline on record. 890,000 more people died than were born. This was the 14th year in a row that Japan's population shrank, and the numbers only continue to accelerate. The impact is visible in places like the village of Ichinono, featured in a CBS News segment, where not a single baby has been born in over 25 years. To cope with the emptiness, one resident began making life-size puppets to fill abandoned schools and bus stops. These puppets now outnumber the living, a stark reminder of how entire communications are fading away. Local officials in similar towns offer vacant homes for free or steep discounts, but these efforts rarely lead to a lasting repopulation. The silence in these areas isn't just eerie, it signals a deeper crisis for Japan's future. This demographic shift isn't limited to rural villages. Even in major cities like Tokyo and Osaka, the effects are starting to show. Service industries increasingly depend on young immigrants or foreign students to fill jobs. In 2024, net immigration brought in about 340,000 people. Helpful, but nowhere near enough to offset the losses. Japan's immigration policies remain tight, so the overall trend continues downward. Birth rates are at the heart of the problem. Japan's fertility rate has been below the replacement level of 2.1 children per woman for half a century. In 2024, it reached a historic low of 1.15. That means each new generation is much smaller than the last. The consequences are obvious in the numbers. In 1949, Japan saw 2.7 million births during the post-war baby boom. By 2023, the number of new babies born dropped below 700,000 for the first time since records began in 1899. This decline is happening about 15 years faster than government forecasts predicted. At the same time, the population is aging rapidly. In 2024, the number of people aged 75 and over grew by 700,000, reaching 20.8 million. This group now makes up 57.3% of everyone aged 65 or older. The working age population, those between 15 and 64, continues to shrink, while the elderly population grows each year. This creates a widening gap between those who need care and those who can provide it. The effects ripple through every part of society. A survey in August 2024 found that 51% of companies across industries report shortages of full-time workers. Many businesses now cater to solo customers, and the number of marriages has dropped to its lowest point since 1917. Some rural communities are close to disappearing altogether, while cities struggle to maintain economic activity with fewer young people. Other countries in East Asia are also seeing population declines, but Japan's situation stands out for its speed and scale. The National Institute of Population and Social Security Research projects that by 2056, Japan's population will fall below 100 million. The pace of this transformation means that changes once expected to happen over generations are unfolding within a single lifetime. What's driving these trends, and why have efforts to reverse them failed? To understand that, we need to look more closely at why so few children are being born in Japan today. Japan's birth rate is now one of the lowest in the world, sitting at just over 1.15 children per woman in 2024. That's a number that continues to fall, with fewer than 687,000 babies born last year, a 5.7% drop from 2023. This isn't just a blip, it's a trend that's been accelerating for decades. The reasons behind this crisis are layered, but two of the biggest factors are Japan's relentless work culture and the economic uncertainty facing young adults. Long hours are the norm for many workers, and overtime is often unpaid or expected. Jobs aren't just about earning a living, they're about proving loyalty and maintaining social status. For young people, this means there's little time or energy left for dating, let alone starting a family. Wages have also failed to keep up with the rising cost of living, especially in cities where most jobs are concentrated. Many young workers feel financially insecure, and the idea of supporting a child, or even getting married, seems out of reach for a growing number of them. For those who do consider having children, the financial pressures don't stop at the delivery room. Raising a child in Japan is expensive. Rent in cities like Tokyo and Osaka is high, and education costs add up quickly. Families are expected to invest heavily in their children's future, with private tutoring and after-school programs seen as almost mandatory for success. This competitive academic culture puts even more pressure on parents, especially mothers, who often juggle work and the bulk of household duties. The lack of accessible childcare only makes things harder. Even when the government provides some support, it rarely covers the real costs or addresses the daily challenges families face. Traditional gender roles remain deeply rooted in Japanese society. Women are still expected to take on most of the childcare and housework, even if they work full-time. This makes it tough for women to balance a career and family, and many choose to delay marriage or not marry at all. Social attitudes are shifting as well. According to a recent survey by the National Institute of Population and Social Security Research, about a third of single adults in Japan say they don't want a romantic relationship. More people are comfortable living alone, and fewer see marriage or children as necessary milestones. At the same time, there's a strong stigma around single parenthood. Less than 2.5% of children are born outside of marriage, one of the lowest rates globally. These cultural expectations create another barrier for anyone considering a family outside traditional norms. The government has tried to intervene, rolling out a range of policies from cash payments for new parents to increased funding for childcare. Some towns have even offered direct payments to couples who have children. But these efforts focus mostly on families who are already married or planning to have kids. They don't address the deeper issues, work culture, economic insecurity, and rigid gender roles that keep so many young people from even considering marriage or parenthood in the first place. For now, these policies haven't made a significant difference. The fertility rate continues to fall, and the number of marriages keeps dropping. Each year, the gap between the elderly and the young widens. The effects aren't just personal, they're reshaping communities and the economy. As families shrink and fewer children are born, the strain on Japan's workforce and support systems grows. The next challenge is figuring out how a country can function when there are more retirees than people working. Japan's demographic crisis is creating economic pressure on nearly every front. The working age population, those between 15 and 64, fell by 224,000 in 2024. At the same time, the population aged 75 and over jumped by 700,000, now totaling more than 20.7 million. Nearly 30% of all Japanese citizens are over 65. This shift isn't just a demographic marker, it's a central factor in the country's mounting economic strain. One of the most direct effects is the burden on public finances. Fewer workers means fewer people paying taxes, but the cost of supporting an aging society keep climbing. Public pension payments reached 56 trillion yen in fiscal year 2021, and the number is only growing as retirees live longer and require more support. Social Security and healthcare costs are rising fast, taking up a larger share of the national budget and leaving less room for infrastructure, education, or innovation. Hospitals and long-term care facilities are under constant strain, with demand for services outpacing what the current workforce can provide. Labor shortages are now a defining feature of the Japanese economy. In a 2024 survey, 51% of companies reported persistent shortages of full-time employees. Sectors that rely on physical labor, like agriculture, food service, and healthcare, are being hit the hardest. On farms, fields are left untended, not because of lack of land, but because there's nobody left to work them. In manufacturing, staff shortages have led to production delays and increased workloads for those who remain. Restaurants and grocery stores often reduce hours or close entirely, not for a lack of customers, but because they can't find enough staff. These shortages are even more visible in rural areas. In places like Ichinono, where not a single baby has been born in 25 years, the effects are stark. Schools have closed for good, and entire villages are now little more than ghost towns. Some prefectures, such as Akita, have seen their populations decline by more than 1% per year. The loss of people means the loss of local businesses, public services, and any sense of community continuity. For the elderly who remain, daily life becomes more isolated and basic needs are harder to meet. The shrinking workforce has direct consequences for Japan's economic growth. With fewer people available to work, productivity slows and the country's overall output drops. Mitsui & Co. research warns that the aging and shrinking population could reduce Japan's annual GDP growth by about 1 percentage point over the next 30 years. This isn't just a theoretical risk, it affects how much the country can produce, how much it can export, and how competitive it can remain in the global stage. As the labor force contracts, businesses may cut investment, innovation could lag, and Japan's influence in global supply chains may weaken. To keep the economy running, companies and policymakers are turning to technology. Automation and AI are being introduced in factories and on farms to make up for missing workers. But these solutions have limits, and while technology can help, it can't fully replace the value of a large, active workforce. The idea of bringing in more foreign workers is also on the table, but it comes with its own challenges. Japan has traditionally maintained strict immigration policies, and there's ongoing debate about how open the country should be to newcomers. These economic realities make it clear that there are no easy fixes. The choices Japan faces, whether to rely on more automation, open its doors to more foreign workers, or attempt a combination, each come with trade-offs and uncertainties. The next question is whether immigration or technology can really fill the gap, or if the roots of the crisis run deeper than any quick solution can reach. Immigration and automation are the two main strategies Japan is using to address its shrinking workforce. By 2040, the country faces a projected shortfall of 11 million workers. To maintain even modest economic growth, about 1.24% a year, Japan would need to attract 6.74 million foreign workers by 2040. The government's current plan to bring in up to 800,000 more skilled foreign workers over the next 5 years is a step forward, but it's nowhere near enough to close the gap. Japan has made some progress. In 2024, the number of foreign workers reached a record 2 million. The Specified Skilled Worker, or SSW program, launched in 2019, offers 5-year visas to middle-skilled workers in sectors like construction, agriculture, nursing, and food service, industries hit hardest by labor shortages. The High Skilled Foreign Professional, or HSFP system, started in 2012, uses a points-based system to attract researchers, engineers, and business managers with specialized expertise. These programs are supposed to make it easier for skilled workers to enter and contribute to the workforce. But the reality is more complicated. Most foreign workers come on temporary visas with limited pathways to long-term residency. The SSW program requires applicants to pass a Japanese language proficiency test, which can be a major barrier, especially for those in middle-skilled roles. Even for those who can clear these hurdles, integration isn't easy. Foreign nationals in Japan earn, on average, 28% less than Japanese workers. Language barriers, limited access to education for children, and a lack of support service make it hard for newcomers to settle in. Social attitudes also play a role. While surveys show a majority of Japanese people support visas for skilled workers, the country's self-image as an ethnically homogeneous nation still shapes public policy and daily life. Alongside immigration, Japan is leaning heavily on automation and AI to make up for missing workers. The country has long been a leader in robotics, and now these technologies are being rolled out in industries facing severe shortages. In agriculture, AI systems can spot diseases and pests early, helping farmers manage crops with fewer hands. In factories, automation is changing the way products are made. At the Osaka Osho dumpling plant, for example, AI-powered cameras have reduced manpower needs by almost 30% by quickly identifying defective products. In retail and food service, robots and automated kiosks are now common for tasks like taking orders and stocking shelves. Despite these advances, automation has clear limits. Machines work well for repetitive or technical jobs, but they struggle with roles that require human judgment or empathy. In elder care, robots can help with physical tasks, but they can't replace the emotional support and social connection many elderly people need. Smaller businesses often find full automation too expensive or impractical. Even in sectors where automation works, it can't fully make up for a shrinking workforce. Both immigration and automation are helping Japan adapt, but neither is enough on its own. The country is managing to slow the effects on its demographic crisis, but not reverse them. The bigger question is whether Japan is prepared to rethink deeper issues, like work culture, gender roles, and the cost of raising a family, that drive the crisis in the first place. These choices will shape not just the economy, but what kind of society Japan becomes in the years ahead. Japan's demographic crisis is more than just about numbers. It's about how a country adapts when its population shrinks and ages at the same time. As mentioned earlier, by 2070, the population is projected to fall to 87 million. with 38 to 40% aged 65 or older. This means Japan will have about the same number of people as it did back in 1953, but with a much older society and far fewer workers to support them. The strain on Social Security and public services will be intense, but the bigger question is, how will Japan find a new equilibrium as it becomes smaller and older? This isn't just a challenge for Japan. Other countries in East Asia and beyond are watching closely, looking for lessons in how to manage low birth rates in an aging population. Will immigration, automation, or deeper cultural reforms offer the best path forward? Let us know in the comments which solution you think is the most viable.